All right, everyone, have a seat. We got a quick turnaround. Alice is here. Who loves it? Who loves it? Yeah, let's go. Okay, please. Oh, we got more people. Come in, have a seat. We're about to start. It's going to be awesome. Right? All right, everyone, make all the noise you can for our legend, Alice Cooper.
No math questions, okay?
Welcome back to Days of the Dead. Such an honor as always. Oh my goodness.
Hey Alice, welcome to my nightmare.
I've heard that somewhere.
Thank you, John. I would love to start this off by asking you about your musical journey. Please tell me how you got involved in this.
I like every other kid, when the Beatles came out, I was 15, and I was painting our house, and the radio was always on, and all of a sudden I heard, "She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah," and I went, what was that? It was totally different. Nobody sounded like that. And I found out who the Beatles were, and called to my best friend, and I said, "We got to start a band, right now." I really didn't want to do anything else. I didn't have any other future plans to do anything, but the Beatles were such an inspiration because they were such good songwriters. You know, they just wrote. To this day, young bands come up to me, you know, metal bands and stuff like that, and they go, "What should we do?" I go, "Listen to the Beatles." And they go, "Why?" And I said, "Because they write songs. They don't write just riffs. You know, they write pure songs." I said, "So I get it. You're angry. You're 17. You're angry. I get it. Write a song about it, but don't just write a riff and yell at me. You know." I said, write me something that I can, like, you know, hang my hat on. That's a real song, and it's very hard for them to do. You know, very, very hard to do. A couple bands can do it.
So we're at a horror con. We all love horror, of course. One of my favorites happens to be Freddy's Dead.
Freddy's Dead.
Can we please talk about how that came into your life and your involvement?
You know, they asked me to play Freddy's father, Freddy's, and it was the hardest thing to do when you're doing a horror movie is not laughing, because he's going to put a straight razor through my eye in 3D, and every time you get ready to do it, you know, I go, okay, let's go, and then he'd go. You know, I go, okay, let's do it. And then he'd get ready to go, and I'd start laughing. So, I mean, horror movies are great when you see them because they're all edited and they look great. You know, in 3D, the thing comes through and I bleed to death and all that. But not laughing is the hardest part because it's so over the top. And I would go to movies with Rob Zombie. You know, we would tour together we'd go to horror movies and just laugh all the way through them, you know, because I kind of we both look at horror movies as comedies. They're so absurd and over the top that they're comedies. And then by the worst part of the movie, I look over and he's always asleep. Misses everything.
And then, of course, you did songs for Friday the 13th 6. Love that soundtrack, right? He's back, right? Can you talk about that a little bit?
You know, that song was #1 in Europe, in Sweden, Finland, all those Nordic countries, and they wouldn't allow the movie in. They allowed the song, but not the movie, because they didn't like splatter movies. They wouldn't. In fact, if you came across the border with, you know, DVDs, they would take them because they didn't allow splatter at all. And of course, later it's changed.
Contraband, okay.
Yeah. But it was so weird that the song was #1 and they'd never seen the movie. So, you know.
But it's a great song, though,
It's
right?
a really good song.
not.
I actually wrote that with the guy that did all the Madonna songs.
Really?
Don Kelly, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So one more question, and I'm going to turn it out to our lovely audience. What's your songwriting process? Like when you're going into a new song, like what's your method?
Almost every Alice Cooper album is a story. It starts with a thing and ends with a thing, and all the things that happen in between are part of the story. Like the stage show. The stage show is that too. Welcome to My Nightmare is a little boy that can't wake up out of a nightmare. So all this stuff is going on. Every show's like that. So every album should be like that too. So we pick a subject. Let's say, Nightmare is a good example, or A Brutal Planet, or something like that. A Last Temptation. Write the storyline first, and then we start saying, okay, now what would happen here? What would happen here? Who would, I worked with Neil Gaiman on Last Temptation, and I told him the whole story, and then we just started putting the pieces together, how it would work, and what the finale would be on it, and that's really how I work. If you were to come to me and say, I need a song about a rhinoceros and a giraffe on top of the Empire State Building, I'd go, do you want it to be funny? Do you want it to be romantic? Do you want it to be... Because I write songs that I need to know what you want in that song, So that's how I've always written,
You need your basic outline, right?
Yeah, I just need somebody, or sometimes it's just the title. I was working with my guitar player, and there was a Bowery Boys movie on. And they were talking, and Muggsy hits Satch over the head, and he goes, "School's out." Now, at the time in the 40s, "school's out" meant wise up. School's out. And I went, what? I said, that's great. What a great idea. Wise up, school's out. So we wrote the song in, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And usually hits are written in 20 minutes. The songs that aren't hits are the ones you're trying to put a square peg into a round hole. You're trying to force it because you want it to work. Those songs never work.
Wow.
It's always the easy songs that work.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Let's let the audience have it, huh? Right there.
Hey, Coop, when are you going to stop playing with our emotions and do Monster Dog 2?
Yeah, Monster Dog 2. Okay, let me tell you about Monster Dog. I had just gotten sober in 1982, 83. And my manager and I, Shep, who's been my manager for 55 years, we still don't have a contract with each other. And I said, I've got to do something where I can see if I can work sober, And so that we were offered this movie in Spain, and they said they're only going to release it in the Philippines. I said, oh, good. I want to go and see it. Because I was going to be the lead. I was going to be the Clint Eastwood in this thing. Usually I'm the bad guy. In this one, I'm going to be the good guy. But I had to get up early every morning, know all my lines, and I had to be sober, which was great. That was fine. I did all that. Everybody in the cast and crew were drunk. All the time. They all smoked cigarettes. I don't know why they had a fog machine, because there was smoke everywhere. And the funniest thing about this movie was everybody in the cast was either English or American. So we spoke like this. When we got the movie back, it was, "Hey, how you doing over there? It's just, I don't know." They overdubbed all of our broken English. And I sounded like a truck driver, and I went, why would they do that? But the movie was fun to do, and it was really, really, you remember when all the video stores were open, they had one listing over here of top 20 turkeys of all time. I was in 3 of them. Sergeant Pepper, that one, and I forget what the other one was. But, I told him, I said, I'll be in a movie, the kind of movie that I would rent. I always rented movies where if I even recognized anybody in the cast, I wouldn't rent it. I always loved C movies, and so I said, I want this to be maybe C-. But it was fun to do. It was actually really fun to do. And my wife, Cheryl, she's here somewhere. Yeah, there she is. Cheryl, stand up, please. we're going on our 48th anniversary coming up. And Cheryl plays all the, if you've ever seen our show, Cheryl plays all the characters in the show. She played Nurse Rosetta, she's playing Marie Antoinette. And she's great, she's the best. But anyways, when I got home from doing Monster Dog, I opened up my suitcase and smoke came out. Because all my clothes had absorbed all the smoke from that 3 or 4 weeks that I was there in Spain. We had to throw all the clothes out. You know, did you start smoking? I went, no! But Monster Dog, please, if there's a Monster Dog 2, that would be a tragedy. So we might do it.
In the back in that black hat. Yeah.
Alice, what happened with the song Man with the Golden Gun? Why did they not use that as Bond theme? Because it was 10 times better than Luther.
Oh, you are so correct. And even Christopher Lee, who played, Man with the Golden Gun, said, "Are you guys crazy? This song is so much better than this other one." The crazy thing about the James Bond thing was, I did it, we did it, we had Liza Minnelli, the Pointer Sisters, and who else was on another one of the girl singers, and Ronnie Spector. And they did all that great, Bond stuff, and it was a perfect Bond song, right? And from what I understand, Cubby Broccoli, who does all the production, he says, what chick are we going to get to sing this? Because he's the only girl to sing James Bond themes. He did the same thing with Paul McCartney on Live and Let Die. The guy's got Paul McCartney, Live and Let Die, and he comes in and he says, okay, what chick are we going to get to sing? He said, it's Paul McCartney. Well, all right. But anyways, I have no idea why that wasn't the theme on it. It's still one of my favorite songs we ever did.
But you wrote it for the movie, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, sir, I reported, was it like hanging out with John Lennon in the 70s? Was it that Vampires Club, I think it was?
Yeah, he was an original vampire. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me understand. Of course, the Hollywood Vampires now is a band with Johnny Depp and Joe Perry and myself. And the way it came about was that we were doing Dark Shadows in London. And I was telling Johnny about the drinking club, the Hollywood Vampires, that we met every night at the Rainbow. And it was John Lennon, Harry Nilsson, Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees, Keith Moon. Right there is... I could tell you 100 stories about Keith Moon, and anybody that knew him could tell you 100 different ones. But these are the guys that met every night and just drank. So they called us the Hollywood Vampires because the waitress says, all I ever do is see you at night, all you do is drink, you're like a bunch of vampires. And we go, oh, okay, we're the Hollywood Vampires. Ringo was in it also. And then there were certain guys that showed up. Jack Nicholson was always there, and John Belushi was there, But John, I had Harry Nilsson on this side, and John on this side. They were best friends. If he said white, he said black. If he said Democrat, he said Republican. And the more they drank, and every once in a while, sit down. Sit down, Harry. Sit down, John. And John, always wanted me to get political. And I said, John, you're trying to save the world. I'm just trying to entertain them. But he was very political, but very smart, very funny, and one of the great tragedies, I think, of all time. But brilliant guy. All the Beatles were really, really special people. Paul McCartney, nicest person ever. If Paul McCartney came to your house for dinner, he'd do the dishes. That's who he is. Yeah. But John was great. John was really a really good guy.
I just want to say, first time I stayed up past my bedtime was to watch Don Krishna's rock concert. Me and my brother snuck down the hallway and turned on that TV and watched you with the guillotine thing.
Yes.
And we've been hooked ever since.
You know, when rock came on TV, nobody knew how to mix it in the mixing booth. They just couldn't figure out how to mix it. And so it sounded awful on TV, real rock, real hard, live rock and roll. But we were the first ones, I think, that was on, we were the very first band that was on Midnight Special, I think. And yeah, all those shows. But they were fun to do. They were really fun to do.
Halloween, we did $1 Billion Babies, and my grandma's like, man, you can't put that crap in the window.
And that $1 Billion Babies was light compared to some of the other stuff.
That's alone, it's either Alice Cooper or Black Sabbath.
Oh, yeah, they're good buddies.
All right, right there. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts or stories on playing with Susie Quattro recently?
Susie's great. We grew up together pretty much in Detroit. When our band didn't fit in LA because that was Doors country, and they were our best friends with the Doors. We didn't fit in San Francisco because we weren't groovy enough, New York, we didn't fit in there. We ended up going to Detroit, where I'm from, hometown. And the first band I saw, we were at a big festival, nobody had ever heard of us, was the MC5. And I went, wow, this is a show band. The next band I saw was Iggy and the Stooges. Yeah. They were on before us, and I went, uh-oh, I've got competition. Because Iggy was amazing. And the band was just so guttural, And then we came on, and nobody had ever heard of us, but we were just devastating that night. It was 200,000 people, and nobody had ever heard of us, and they went, what was that? And then they found out I was from Detroit, so I was now immediately part of the Detroit scene, and we were hard rock. Detroit was the hard rock capital. Every band that came out of it, Bob Seger, every band, and she had a band with her sisters, the Pleasure Seekers, and we did tons of shows with her. And then recently she says, I want to do, what was the song? Kick Out the Jams. And I said, I'll do it with you. So we did a really cool version of Kick Out the Jams. But Susie's like my little sister. She's great.
Yes.
Out of all your encounters with other rock stars, what's the craziest experience you've had?
Well, there's Crazy, and then there's Keith. My wife and I, she just got married. We just got married. We come home, I open the door, and there's Keith Moon in a full French maid's outfit with a duster. Oh, I have finished doing the house. May I please have the night off? And Cheryl goes, who is this? And I said, it's Keith. He's the best drummer in the world. Just, that's all you have to know. He was the nicest guy, but that was a Tuesday for him. There was another time where, Cheryl finally says, you've got to tell him he's been here 3 weeks. Because he would stay 3 weeks, then he would go to Harry's house for 3 weeks, then Ringo's for 3 weeks. But he was such a crazy, he was so much fun and such, I said, I've got to go have a meeting with lawyers and everything, and Cheryl and I, and, it was really nice having you here. And he said, oh, can I go? I said, I'm going to a lawyer's meeting, And he goes, oh, okay, like a little disappointed kid. So we're driving down Benedict Canyon, Cheryl's driving, and all of a sudden, hello! He's on the roof. And Cheryl goes, get in the car! But on top of that, he was the best drummer I ever heard in my life. There was nobody better than Keith Moon. He was doing things that nobody else could do,
I've heard multiple origin stories of how you got the name, but I've never heard
you got your name?
How they got the name? Okay. We were the Naz. Well, first we were the Spiders. And that's when we were a high school band. And, oh, by the way, this is the craziest thing. We're a high school band at a place that's about this size. And we were the house band there. And it's called the VIP Club. Now, back then, big bands from England didn't do arenas. They did clubs like this, but they did them every night. So we opened for the Hollies, we opened for them, we opened for the 11 Spoonful, all these different bands would come through. And at one point, the promoter, he says, Yardbirds are coming in next week. And I went, because we were the Yardbirds band. We did all Yardbirds songs. And I went, what am I going to do? So they're at the back, like those people who are back there. There wasn't even dressing rooms. And we go on before them and do all their songs. And they're back there going, and then they got on stage, and we were pretty good. They got on stage and blew us off the stage because they were the Yardbirds. And that was Jeff Beck when he was 20. So he was, you know, you can imagine how insane their guitar player he was when he was 20. And we became friends ever since after that because I talked to him. Remember that little band that opened for you? But the name, we were the Naz then, and we found out that Todd Rundgren had a band called the Naz. So we had to change the name. And we thought, so many great names. We thought maybe the Husky Baby Sandwich. And all these really gruesome names. And then we said, wait a minute. Let's go the other way. Let's call ourselves something that they're not expecting at all. And I was thinking of Betty Crocker. But I came out with Alice Cooper. Because it was an all-American little old lady that makes cookies for everybody, at the end of the block. That's an Alice Cooper. I said, that's who we should be. With this image, Alice Cooper. And there won't be an Alice Cooper in the band. That's just the name of the band, right? So that stuck, and it worked. People really, and then people started calling me Alice. They said, well, Alice, I was the obvious character that was Alice. And that's how I became Alice. I finally changed my name and everything. But originally it was to shock every parent in America, and it worked.
One more, Ashland.
Question, in Florida, we got to chat a little bit about how you and I both played King Herod. And I'm wondering what got you to say yes to that, and how much creative control did you have of making that character your own?
Oh, which one was that now?
King Herod and Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
King Herod. Yeah. Well, Tim Rice was a friend of mine. And when they did the re-recording of Jesus Christ Superstar 10 to 15 years before that, I played Herod in it. But I did it pretty straight, When we did this, they asked me to do it, and I went, they always make Herod a roly-poly kind of goofball, right? I said, Herod should be arrogant. He should be very condescending, Alan Rickman, kind of. And so I said, I'm going to think Alan Rickman and Alice Cooper as Herod. So, when you first see him, he comes out and he's got his gold. And he sees Jesus, and he just kind of, oh, him. It was all about him. It was not about Jesus. And that's how Herod would have been. He would have, I'm the king, he's not the king. Now the horrible thing about this is you get one chance at it. It was live on NBC for 100 million people. You had to get it in the first take. Everything, all the choreography and everything. Everybody in the cast had 4 months. I had 2 days. Because I was on tour. When I had a day off, I'd fly into New York, get the choreography down, and then go back on tour. Then I'd come back out, do the vocal thing, and come back out. So when I got ready to do it, I'm going, I better just rely on Alice here. And Alice, the character, played figured, oh, I know how to play this character because that's the character I am on stage. You know, that's the condescending, you know, villain. And so I just played him the way I would play Alice. You know. But it was really fun to do.
Okay, so we do have time for one quick one. Let's go you in the tie dye.
Oh,
Yeah.
Alice, you've talked in interviews about how people like Groucho Marx saw your show and they realized it was a vaudeville act.
Sure.
Were you always inspired by vaudeville, or is it something you looked at as you continued to develop your stage?
I always liked the idea of rock. You know, my first idea was, and Dennis Dunaway, my bass player, we were both art majors. And I kind of looked at rock and roll going, I love rock and roll, but how come there's nothing visual going on?
Yeah.
You know, you'd see these great bands and just nothing, there's a big blank canvas behind them. And it just occurred to me that make the lyrics come to life. You know, the first thing you got to be, if you're going to get anywhere up there in that echelon, first is the songs. If you don't have the songs, if you don't have the cake, you can't put the icing on it. So we spent 8 hours a day on the music and 1 hour on the visuals. Because we were up against Led Zeppelin, we were up against the Stones, everybody. So you better be a great band to start with. All of our effort went into that. The theatrics kind of came natural. If you're going to say, welcome to my nightmare, give them the nightmare. Don't just say it, you know. Make a bed come out. Make it look like a nightmare. Have dancers come out from under the bed. Cheryl was one of the dancers in that show. And, you know, give the audience a full story. And Groucho came and he saw it as vaudeville because it kind of was like vaudeville. Dali saw it as surrealism. And so to him, it was, well, Dali, everything was about him. So he saw it and figured, well, I'm responsible for this show. And in a way he was. Dennis and I were both art majors and Dali was our hero. So when he came and saw the show, he said, it's surrealism. It's surrealism. You know? Everybody had a different take on the show. So, but when Groucho came, he would then bring his friends that were on vaudevillians. Jack Benny, George Burns, Mae West. They're all on the side of the stage. The audience is horrified. And they're out there going, yeah, Gracie and I, 1929, we had a guillotine act. And you know, they had seen everything. They weren't shocked at all about anything that we did. You know, which was kind of cool, because they were the real golden stars right there. Those people were Fred Astaire. People like that would come to see the show. And it complimented our dancers. Fred Astaire says, dancers are great. I mean, can you get a better compliment than that? So,
Thank you so much for your time. This has been wonderful.
thank you.